kidding, I'm here. Sorry, I just had to do that today. It's Michelle Carr, and we are here on Thursday to dig deep on this week's blog post, which was Lessons from Arnold. So I just finished the book, Total Recall, My Unbelievably True Life Story, which was his biography, and it was a really good book. I wouldn't normally have picked it up. It was on a recommended reading list, so I thought, sure, why not? Give it a try. And it was a great read. He has a very interesting life and a lot of good takeaways for anyone, whether you're an entrepreneur or you work for a company or just, you're just living life, trying to live the best life for you. So I wanted to share some of the lessons that he shared in the book in the Dig Deep today. So one of the first things that I mentioned in the post was that he has won the Mr. Olympia title 7 different times. Now, I talked about how sometimes I get bogged down with figuring out, well, what's next? After I achieve that goal, then what? Because there's always room to grow, and I'm a planner, so I want to know, okay, well, after I achieve that goal, then what goal am I going to achieve? So what I learned from that book is to stop that, quite frankly. You look at someone like Arnold, who his first goal was just to compete in, I think it was Mr. Europe competition. And he wanted to be the, most muscular man in Europe. And then from there it was Mr. Olympia. And he wanted bodybuilding to get him to America. But he didn't stop when he got to America through bodybuilding. He continued to work on it, and he ended up winning a total of 7 Mr. Olympia titles, which is pretty crazy. So that was a big takeaway for me, and I think a good one for us is that just focus on one goal at a time. Don't worry about what the next goal might be or where you'll grow from there, because you'll gain so much knowledge and information on the journey to the first goal that will help you shape what the next one's going to be. The other thing that kind of tweaked for me was when he talked about his calves. Apparently, his calves were small and he wanted to build them up. And his trainer at the time said, well, Arnold, you're like 230 pounds. I think 235 was his peak weight. So if you're going up and down stairs and walking around and just carrying your own body weight, that's 235 pounds on your calves already. You can't go to the gym and lift 235 pounds. You're going to have to increase that weight if you want to grow your calves. So I think the big takeaway there is that we have to look at how hard we're pushing ourselves relative to what we want. And if Arnold wanted bigger calves, he couldn't lift 230 pounds. He needed to lift 330 pounds or more if he really wanted to grow them. So if you are wanting to do something, how far are you pushing yourself now relative to where you currently are? What do you have to do? What do you have to push harder at to really get to where you want to go? The other thing he talked about was reps. He says it a number of times in the books, reps, 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 and it really ingrained in me. And one particular story he told was when he was preparing for a scene in The Terminator. And what he had to do essentially was ride a motorcycle, shoot a gun, and because he's a Terminator, he could make no facial expression, and you can't look down. So he has to ride him. Now, I've never done any of these things, but I imagine, riding a motorcycle, like driving a car, you would glance down to look at your gauges or adjust or whatever. So he had to learn how to do all of that without looking. It had to become second nature. And then he also had to be learning how to shoot a gun, and it was probably like a big, Terminator gun or something. And of course, a gun always has kickback, so he had to manage that all while having like this stoic, I'll be back face, right? So I thought, wow, that's quite the feat when you put it that way. Like when you really think about what it is that these actors have to accomplish for what we see on the screen, it's quite a bit. So he said, it was reps. I started by learning to ride the motorcycle, and it was just doing it over and over and over again so I could do it without looking. And then it was learning how to shoot the gun separately without looking and without flinching, without changing my face. And then it was slowly putting them together and just practicing over and over and over. And that's life. I mean, it's practice doesn't make perfect all the time, but it makes permanent for sure. And when something's permanent, you can execute it without thinking. And I think that's a really good lesson for us, to just practice what you want to be doing and just keep repeating it over and over and over. And the more times you do it, the stronger you will get, whether you're lifting weights, whether you're practicing something for your job, whether you're practicing, a habit of some kind. The more you do it, the more ingrained, the stronger, the better you will get. And the other thing that I thought was such an interesting part of the book was the fact that he was very much Republican, and yet he fell in love with this Democratic woman, Marie Shriver. And and just that she comes from the Kennedy family, probably the most famous Democratic family in modern history, and he's this Republican bodybuilder, and they fell in love, and they are married 25 years, they have 4 kids, and during that time he is also a Republican governor for the state of California. So I mean, I can imagine how hard that would be to be Maria Shriver and be the first lady of a Republican government when you and your whole family are Democratic. And he talks about getting advice from Eunice, his mother-in-law, who of course was a Democrat as well, and how he forged relationship with other Democrats and with Republicans as well, who were at the very far end of the Republican side of things. So what I took away from that is that no matter what our beliefs are, whether they're political, religious, any sort of belief, one, love can bring anyone together. And 2, you can find allies in the most opposite seeming places, right? So don't be so caught up in, well, they're not exactly like me. They don't think exactly like me. If their core is similar to yours, you can probably do great things. Even if you share different beliefs on other issues, if you share the same core values and the same commitment to an outcome, you can probably put those together and put aside some of your other differences to really make a big difference. And when I was reading the book, I saw that he had done this a number of times through his governorship, and even just, of course, being married into a Democratic family like that. So I think it's a really good lesson to just put your own, have your opinions, have your beliefs, but don't let them stop you from becoming allies with someone who thinks differently to really resolve an important issue that both of you share. So anyways, it was a really good book. I strongly recommend this book. Mine is, tattered and dampened from the pool and shoved in bags and whatnot. And I think, for me, that's a good sign that a book has been well loved. So I would recommend picking it up or buying it on your Kindle or iBooks or whatever it is you like to read on. And I think autobiographies or biographies are always a great read, because it's really a chance for us to learn from someone else's experience and their lessons in life. And we don't necessarily have to walk the same path to gain the same knowledge that they're sharing with us, which is amazing, right? Anyways, guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. I hope you go out there and create a delicious life for yourself, because you deserve it. And I will see you tomorrow for Fashion Friday. Take care, everyone. Have an awesome afternoon.